There's a strange silence in the room after you swipe. The dopamine fades. The package is in the cart. The invoice is approved. The new hire onboarded. But somewhere, beneath the logic of the expense, you ask yourself, was that necessary? Not just to the bottom line, but to the soul? The Stoics wouldn't have tracked expenses on Excel, but they would have tracked something far harder: intention. Was this purchase ruled by reason or by impulse? Did it serve your mission or just your moment? Because in their world, every coin wasn't just currency. It was character, spent or squandered, one choice at a time. Seneca was no stranger to wealth. He had villas, slaves, a network of influence that spanned the empire. But he also performed rituals of deprivation, not for theatrics, but to test the integrity of his needs. He'd eat coarse bread, sleep on hard floors, and ask himself, is this what I feared? Musonius Rufus, his contemporary, went further. He saw frugality as training for freedom. Not because being poor was noble, but because not needing more was power. They weren't against spending. They were against spending that concealed inner poverty. When your identity leans on luxury, you've already mortgaged your peace. Today, that might look like the startup founder who burns $10,000 a month on brand presence, but hasn't clarified what the brand is for. Or the early-stage entrepreneur drowning in SaaS tools they don't need yet, because everyone else is doing it. That's not strategy. That's lifestyle panic dressed as ambition. Frugality isn't aesthetic, it's ethical. The Stoic doesn't ask, can I afford this, but can I justify this to my purpose? You don't scale a business by mimicking success. You scale by eliminating distraction. Every dollar you spend that isn't in service of your values is leverage against your own freedom. Seneca warned that abundance makes men soft, not because of the stuff itself, but because of the shift it causes inside. You stop asking whether something serves you and start asking whether it compares well to someone else's. That's how budgets bloat, not from needs, but from noise. And that's why the Stoic budget isn't a spreadsheet, it's a mirror. Every founder will face the temptation to perform success before achieving it. Fancy office space, custom swag, business class flights justified by focus. It looks clean, efficient, deserved. But at its core, it's ego maintenance, a costume stitched in money. The Stoics would call it what it is: distraction. Musonius Rufus believed that wasting resources was a form of moral negligence. Because wealth wasn't just yours, it was borrowed from fortune. To waste it on status was to announce your dependency on illusion. Seneca once mocked men who dressed in gold but trembled in private. They wear their value, he said, because they do not possess it within. In today's language, if your net worth walks out the door with your watch, it wasn't yours to begin with. The true Stoic doesn't just cut costs. He interrogates them, not from austerity, but from alignment. Why did I buy that? What did I hope it would solve? What am I afraid will happen if I don't spend this? These aren't financial questions. They're existential ones, because beneath every budget is a self-image. And the more that image is inflated by externals, the more fragile the builder becomes. That's why Musonius saw simplicity not as deprivation, but as refinement, to spend only on what contributes to the whole life, not the hollow life. You're not stingy. You're sovereign. You're not cheap. You're choosing. And that choice becomes your identity. Money is not neutral. Every transaction is a tiny referendum on your values. Do you fund distraction or focus? Do you finance dependency or strength? To a Stoic, nothing is truly cheap if it costs your clarity. And nothing is expensive if it purchases integrity. Seneca urged his readers to observe the spenders of Rome, not to judge them, but to understand them. They are poor in the midst of plenty, he wrote, not because they lack, but because they chase. A Stoic budget is not about how little you can live on. It's about how much peace you can live with. We live in a world of auto-renewals and algorithmic temptation. But the Stoic still walks among us. The founder who questions before he spends. The entrepreneur who trims the excess without trimming the vision. The thinker who budgets not for show, but for soul. Frugality isn't about fear. It's about freedom. Because in the end, the way you spend is the way you think. And the wealthiest man in the room isn't the one with the highest burn rate. It's the one who could walk away today, with nothing in his cart and nothing missing. That's how you spend like a philosopher. That's how you keep your wealth, even when the bank balance changes.